Hello and welcome to our comprehensive news package in English. I am Olayinka Shodunke. Our top stories. Ogun State government trains public school heads on safe reopening after COVID-19. Supreme Court affirms election of Yahya Bello as governor of Kogi State. Insurance sector contracts by 28.15% in second quarter of 2020. Historic Israeli flight arrives in United Arab Emirates. We generate fears while we sit. We overcome them by actions.
Coming up on sports tonight, President of Argentina, Alberto Fernandez, urges Messi to return home. These and many more later when I return on the sports segment of the news. My name, Hakeem Akitunde. You're welcome.
And now to the news in full. About 4,000 public primary school head and assistant head teachers in Ogun State have been trained on efficient and safe school pre-reopening. The state governor, Prince Dapo Abiodun, reiterated his administration's commitment towards ensuring an improved educational sector in the state. Prince Abiodun said the government would continue to formulate policies and programs geared towards revamping the falling standard of education in the state, appealing to primary school administrators to join hands in developing the sector.
Have been targeted on leadership and capacity development to ensure smooth transition and move the tone of staff based in the state. And education remains one of the irrevocable in our commitment to repositioning state education sector. We will continue to do this through numerous policies and programs in line with our vision to provide qualitative things of the state and more the community of states in Nigeria.
Given an overview of the training, the special advisor to Governor Abiodun on primary and secondary education, Mrs. Ronke Shoyombo, described the facilitators as inspiring and renowned experts in school administration. It was technical participants to make each opportunity, particularly at this period, appreciating the governor for providing the training, which according to him would broaden the knowledge and skills of participants for effective school reopening. As part of its quasi-judicial functions, the Ogun State House of Assembly has appealed to the leadership of the Association of Resident Doctors at Olabisi Onabanjo University Teaching Hospital, OOUTH, to reconsider its stand by suspending the ongoing industrial action. The Speaker, Right Honorable Olakun Service Al-Aja Selimot Otu, Commissioner for Health, Dr. Tomi Koka, representatives of the union, including the representatives of the Nigerian Medical Association, Association of Resident Doctors, OOUTH Chapter, and Dental Consultants Association of Nigeria, OOUTH Chapter, among others, at the Assembly Complex, Okemoso, Abeokuta. Correspondent Kolawole Osho covered the meeting and reports presented in this package.
Speaker, Ogun State House of Assembly, Right Honorable Olakunle Uluomo, and other members during the peace meeting between the union need for the striking resident doctors of OOUTH to suspend their industrial action for a period of time towards finding a lasting solution to issues which were inherited from the previous administrations.
I want to appeal on behalf of the people of Ogun State to at least call up the strike as they have required for 2 weeks and let us see what we can do as House of Assembly to bring you and the governor round table so that this matter can be resolved.
Acknowledging the developmental strides of the Prince Dapo Abiodun-led administration in the health sector to include employment of more health personnel, renovation of all categories of health facilities, and procurement of modern health facilities, the Speaker noted that there was need for the striking doctors to immediately reconnect and ensure the sustenance of a more viable grey areas with government, with a promise to personally convey the message of the doctors.
In Ogun State and comments 5, step 4. Now they are demanding for comments 3, step 2 as the entry point for the step 3 and comment 6, step 4. We need to come on board, be on the round table for discussion. But since they are not coming on board for the discussion. There's no way we can iron these things out.
We gave them that, give us 2 weeks, come back to the table, give us 2 weeks and see what we can come up with. I have spoken to several of the leaders of MDCAN called the CMAC, just trying to facilitate this. But they blatantly refused to come back so that we can negotiate. And I'm sure you're aware of the labor laws that there's no negotiation as long as you're on strike. You have to come back to the table. We can't talk if we're on opposite sides of the fence.
Earlier, the representatives of the unions, including Dr. Ogunlaja Oladayo and Dr. Mutiu Popola, lauded Governor Dapo Abiodun for the recruitment of 82 resident doctors to boost the manpower capacity in the facility, which was saddled with the responsibility of delivering tertiary health care services, research and training of medical personnel, while appealing for the immediate constitution of the hospital's governing board and appropriate placement of medical officers at the entry level for the resident doctors in public service, amongst other issues raised.
The entry point, it is the entry point that we are fighting about. The entry point for doctors initially was on Comments 2, Step 2, which translates to GA 12, Step 2 in Ogun State. There is a way they calculate it. But federal government, they noticed that and doctors, they normally only affect doctors. They now move doctors from Comments, the entry point from Comments 2, Step 2 to Comments 3, Step 3.
Initially, when we started it, there were no issue of COVID-19. But in the process, COVID-19 entered, and we have to put it with it. But the main fundamental issue still remains appropriate regulation.
They, however, appreciated the leadership of the State House of Assembly for their quick intervention on the matter.
Having gone more than 3 years without a case of polio, the World Health Organization has officially declared Africa free of the disease. According to medical experts, the road to eradicating the disease has been long and difficult, hence the need for caution.
The World Health Organization announced this month that polio is no longer endemic in Africa, leaving the devastating disease endemic in only 2 countries and bringing the world one major step closer to achieving the goal of ending polio. Commissioner for Health of Ogun State, Dr. Tomi Koka, describes the declaration as one of the greatest public health achievements in recent times.
We've battled with this disease for many years, for many decades, and as of 2012, Nigeria actually contributed up to 50% of the cases of polio worldwide. But haven't overcome this since the last case of wild polio in Nigeria was in 2015. Across the country, we have been planting trees to signify this because the tree stands for life. And also, it's also to remind us that we cannot relent on our efforts.
For the historic milestone, 5 of the 6 WHO regions, representing over 90% of the world's population, are now free from wild polio virus.
Because this is what we have been involved in since 1988, especially when the World Health Assembly declared a war against polio. And I can tell you, it's like we have achieved this with all efforts, and Rotarians all throughout the world are very happy. But that being said, we are not saying we are going to relent on all our efforts.
Usually, there's what we call a polio vaccine. If children are not vaccinated against polio, that's when they will come down with having polio. But it's a preventable disease. That's why the vaccine is there. So any child that is born and that is well vaccinated according to the national MPI schedule will not have the polio.
I haven't seen new cases of polio. I haven't seen new cases. The old ones are still there and they are undergoing treatment. But to say new cases, polio coming up and then we are seeing it, I have not seen. So partly I am agreeing with the WHO.
Medical experts call for continued vigilance in order to protect the gains and ensure there is no resurgence.
So I'm looking at Nigeria in the next 20 years that we will not have as many of us been classified as disabled because we've eradicated this virus in our midst. Well, a lot of these diseases, including pertussis, that our children between 0 and 5 need to engage with, it reduces mortality in our infants.
According to experts, strong leadership and innovation were instrumental in the eradication of wild polio virus in Africa. Shemilori Makonju, Ogtv News.
Still talking health, postpartum depression is early indicated when symptoms are severe and have lasted over 2 weeks. In the special report, Moyoluwa Ajayi examines the causes, symptoms, cure and prevention of postpartum depression. Our report is presented in this package.
The birth of a new baby is a major developmental transition in life that affects not only the woman but also a baby and the family. A common mental health problem during this period is postpartum disorder, which affects about 15% of women following childbirth.
Postpartum depression is a psychiatric disorder that oftentimes occurs after childbirth. It is often seen within the first 6 to 12 weeks after childbirth, or can extend into the first year after childbirth.
You're exhausted, you're unsure if breastfeeding is going right, why is the baby crying? I mean, there can be a wide range of emotions in the first couple weeks. 80% of women will experience this.
Postpartum depression is an uncommon and frequently undocumented issue that impacts negatively on maternal and child health.
Postpartum depression is kind of an exacerbation of the blues and the stress.
Our mental mental health, as being referred to now, is normal and happens to a lot of women.
The exact cause is not clear, but there are some factors that may contribute to postpartum depression.
Scientifically, there are no known causes, but there are risk factors for postpartum depression. Irritability, restlessness, lassitude, feeling of weeping spells, feeling of worthlessness, helplessness, hopelessness, suicidal ideation.
Absolute prevention is not really possible, but the risk can be reduced.
We need people to seek out help immediately. The biggest thing that I want to instill to women is that they just need to be open about it. There's no need to feel shame, to blame themselves. They are not being bad moms.
Once the symptoms are seen, and that is the essence why mothers need to come for postnatal care, so that they can be screened. They can be screened for this, and if those symptoms are earlier highlighted, we need not stigmatize them. We need to give them all the support we can. Support from the partner, support from the family, and also in severe cases there could be need for psychological therapy.
Talk to your healthcare provider if you have symptoms, because treatment can help.
Without treatment, severe postpartum depression can get progressively worse and may be life-threatening, but can be treated successfully with proper medical intervention.
Still ahead, President Muhammadu Buhari approves transfer of National Identity Management Commission to Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. More news and reports after the break. Do join us again. Welcome back. Gender-based violence and sexual abuses have been some of the most prominent social vices in Nigeria over the years. They have, however, become more pronounced in this ongoing era of COVID-19 pandemic, posing more sexual and reproductive health challenges for the society. Efforts by the government and organizations are attempting to deal with this, as reflected in this report by Matthew Showomi.
As a transitional period between late childhood and early adulthood, the adolescent stage has also been associated with myriad of sexual and reproductive health challenges. This year, the outbreak of COVID-19 resulting in the lockdown of the nation especially led to an upsurge in the cases of gender-based violence, rape, molestation, and other forms of abuses which are symptomatic of sexual and reproductive health challenges. There have been different advocacies and campaigns in recent times calling attention to some of these challenges, and this media roundtable discussion by Ogun State Primary Health Care Development Board and Adolescent 360 Project of Society for Family Health with the theme Meaningful Youth Engagement in Adolescents and Young People's Sexual Reproductive Health Needs and COVID-19 is to put heads together on how to address these challenges. The forum provides ways stakeholders could help adolescents overcome the problem of reproductive health challenges.
They are given the adequate information about their health. They are taught about love life skills, and they also engage their parents. They were also taught skills that can make them busy and make them realize some other opportunities for them in life.
And everybody should be concerned about the sexual and reproductive health of the girl child, in the sense that there seems to be a class in the society that we need to all protect.
With the strategic position adolescents occupy in the society, their well-being will become the well-being of all if efforts similar to this and a sustained will on the part of government at all levels remain in the front burner of discussions. Matthew Shoumi, Ogtv News.
A tripartite executive, legislative and leadership of the All Progressives Congress APC Consultative Committee has been inaugurated in a deliberate attempt to enhance democracy and good governance in the country. President Muhammadu Buhari, who performed the ceremony, promised to lead and find solutions as he placed great faith on the committee towards improving service delivery to Nigerians. The tripartite consultative committee is aimed at creating the desired synergy among the executive, legislative and governing party towards delivering effectively the administration's core promises of securing the country, enhancing the economy and fighting corruption for sustainable national growth and development.
Consultative committee will build a greater collaboration to deliver on the promises, position our party, which has been rejuvenated, enhance legislative processes, and enable government perform better.
Inaugurating the committee, President Muhammadu Buhari said the governing APC, commanding a clear majority in both House of Representatives and Senate, taking Nigerians to the next level is a task that must be done. This, he however say, can only be achieved through effective cooperation, collaboration and communication between the leadership of the various arms of government and the governing party.
That our party has been too often embroiled in bitter and on occasions totally unnecessary squabbles, costing us seats in legislative and gubernatorial elections. These never should have happened. We are here to make sure such occurrences do not happen again. We must now ensure regular consultations between the party and the governments.
Expressing firm belief in the doctrine of the separation of powers, which he described as fundamental to national constitutional democracy, the president, however, said the practice should include check and balances and be devoid of petty rivalry.
And be alive to our electoral promises. We need to nurture our party, which is a platform that will take us and our country forward. I am placing great faith in this consultative committee to help improve our governance and achievements to the people of Nigeria. Your success will directly enhance the success of this administration and greatly improve the conditions of our people.
The leadership of the Senate and House of Representatives, the Senate President Ahmed Lawan and the Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila and Chairman APC Caretaker and Extraordinary Convention Planning Committee Governor Maimal Buni of Yobe State were unanimous that the tripartite consultative committee would allow Nigerians to witness much dividends in governance and service delivery. The tripartite consultative committee, which is the first of its kind under the Buhari presidency, is chaired by the Vice President, Professor Yemi Osinbajo. President Muhammadu Buhari has approved the transfer of the National Identity Management Commission to the Federal Ministry of Communications and Digital Economy. It was gathered that the approval for the transfer was based on the President's consideration of the critical role of the NIMC towards the realization of the objectives of the National Digital Economy Policy and Strategy for a Digital Nigeria. This was disclosed in a statement issued on Monday by the spokesperson to the Minister of Communications and Digital Economy, Owa Sulaiman. The Communications Minister and Communications Ministry explained that the transfer would ensure that synergy and effective ministries is put in place to coordinate, monitor and track the progress of the federal government's digital transformation initiatives. The Senate on Monday responded to a claim by the Northern Elders Forum that the proposed amendment of the 1999 Constitution was needless. The NEF, in a communique issued at the weekend and signed by its secretary, Dr. Akim Baba Hamed, dismissed the move by the Senate as mere jamboree to waste taxpayers' money. The senator representing Osun Central and Chairman Senate Committee on Media and Public Affairs, Ajibola Bashiru, said the NEF's claim that the exercise would be a mere jamboree was misplaced. The Senate further asked NEF to put its position in a memorandum and submit it to this Constitution Review Committee led by the Senate Deputy President, Omwagege. The Supreme Court on Monday affirmed the election of Governor Yahya Bello of Kogi State. A 7-man panel of the court led by the Chief Justice of Nigeria, Justice Tanko Mohammed, made this declaration in 2 judgments of dismissing the separate appeal filed by the People's Democratic Party. The Apex Court affirmed the earlier July 4, 2020 judgment of the Court of Appeal in Abuja and verdict of the Election Petition Tribunal, which had both upheld Bello's victory at the poll. The Monday's judgment affirmed the validity of the November 16, 2019 governorship election in Kogi State. Justice Abba Aji, who was the only member of the panel present in court on Monday, read the lead judgment prepared by R. The Inspector General of Police, IGP Mohammed Adamu, has assured that his men would remain neutral and professional as they ensure the maintenance of law and order in the forthcoming Edo and Ondo governorship elections. Adamu, who spoke when he received civil society organization to brainstorm on measures to ensure age-free elections, promised the police would deploy all resources to ensure a level playing field for all parties involved in the elections. The IGP, who pointed out the likelihood of violence in the elections, said the police had already deployed intelligence to generate threat analysis, which would be used to sustain their progress in elections in both states to prevent any breakdown of law and order. Adamu said the police acknowledged the contributions of the CSOS as key actors in the electioneering process in the country, hence the need for the interactive session in view of the upcoming elections. The objectives is to share knowledge and compare knowledge, especially in regards to experiences with election security in Nigeria. Taraba State Governor Darius Ishaku has urged the federal government to checkmate the activities of illegal miners who he said are feeding fat on the revenue both the federal and state government are supposed to generate. Ishaku said he was unhappy with the huge financial losses the 2 tiers of government are suffering. He spoke on Monday during a visit to the Minister of Mines and Steel Development, Olamilekon Adegbite. He said it is regrettable that illegal miners were smiling to the bank daily while both the federal and state government were losing huge sums of money. He corroborated that his administration, in order to maximize the benefit of its mineral deposits, created the Ministry of Mineral Resources to complement the efforts of the federal government. Ishaku, who said his visit was primarily to know what his administration was doing right or wrong in the implementation of its policy on mineral resources, however, said a concerted effort was needed to curb the excesses of illegal miners. The Minister of State for Labour and Productivity, Festus Keyamo, has waded into the formula of sharing the 774,000 jobs under the Special Public Works Scheme. He said the federal government would retain the original plan of conceding only 15% of the job slots to governors, National Assembly members, ministers, and other interest groups. He said he has not received superior instructions from his bosses on his role on the project. He said the interest of the public will be uppermost than any other thing. Keyamo, who spoke with journalists, however, said there be a few adjustments of the sharing formula depending on local circumstances. The minister spoke against the backdrop of claims by the Director General of the National Directorate of Employment, Dr. Nasiru Muhammad Dandi, that the job sharing formula would accommodate more concessions. Keyamo said the report on the sharing formula must have been a misapprehension of the instructions he gave to them to implement, adding that he did not give any instruction on 40% rise for them to implement. On his role on the projects, the minister said he has not received superior instructions from his bosses, and the presidency did not give contrary instructions on his role, but he explained the ministry has been working seamlessly with NDE. To education, the Academic Staff Union of Universities has called on the federal government to implement the 2019 Memorandum of Action it signed with the union. ASU also urged the government to release for revitalization of the Nigerian university system for the development of education sector. Professor Theophilus Lagi, the ASU Abuja Zonal Coordinator, made the call during a news conference on Monday in Abuja. Lagi said the ongoing strike by ASU was to demand the release of revitalization fund, payment of arrears of earned academic allowances, and constitution of visitation panel to public universities, among others. According to him, the quest for revitalization of the university system and the welfare of ASU members have always been on the front burner of the union struggle. Still in education, Calabar Zone of the Academic Staff Union of Universities, ASU, has said that universities clamoring for the reopening of Nigerian universities are those serving as cash cows to some government. The coordinator of the zone, Dr. Anike Brown of the Department of Sociology and Anthropology, University of Uyo, who made the assertion while briefing newsmen on Monday in Uyo, stressed the need for members of the public to know that it was unreasonable to contemplate reopening of universities because the facilities to ensure the safety of lives of students, lecturers are not in place. Brown maintained that the COVID-19 pandemic actually exposed the vulnerability of the country in the different sectors of the economy, especially the education sector, as Nigerian government have ingloriously exhibited gross inability to meet the standards set by COVID-19 advisory in the country's public schools. He explained that Nigerian universities would have recorded the expected development in infrastructure, promotion of researchers, and that this pandemic would not have taken the country unawares, this much if the government had kept its own side of the 2013 agreement. A special visitation panel set up by the federal government to look into the crisis rocking the University of Lagos, UNILAG, on Monday began its sitting behind closed doors and collated memorandum submitted by members of the public. The panel, which has 2 weeks to submit its report, had issued a notice calling for memoranda shortly after its inauguration on Wednesday. Last week, by the Education Minister, Malam Adamu, he observed that the box where the memoranda were dropped was emptied and taken into the chambers at about 2 p.m. in accordance with the time given by the panel. The whole process was each free as the campus patrol police from Sabo Police Division were seen around the council chamber. Over 700 families of dislodged terrorists in Nasarawa State last week are to be handed over to the governors from 16 states from the country's northern part. The families of the terrorists expected to be handed over in Nasarawa State includes wives and children of terrorists dislodged from a forest in total local government area of Nasarawa State. The handing over ceremony is taking place at the 123 Special Force Battalion Headquarters, Doma, Nasarawa State. Arms and ammunition recovered from the terrorists have been displayed, while government officials as well as traditional rulers have started arriving in the command for the handing over. On the 31st of August 1997, Princess Diana Frances Spencer died in a car crash in a Paris tunnel. Elizabeth Esson in the special report takes a look at the life and times of Princess of Wales 23 years after our report.
Diana Frances Spencer, turned Princess of Wales, was a member of the British royal family. She was the first wife of Charles, Prince of Wales, the heir apparent to the British throne, and the mother of Prince William and Prince Harry.
I think every strong woman in history. Why is she strong? Where does she get it from? Where is she taking it? Where is she going to use it? Why do the public still support her? When I say public, you go in and do an engagement and there's a great many people there.
Diana was born into the British nobility and grew up close to the royal family on their Sandham estate. Diana came to prominence in 1981 upon her engagement to Prince Charles, the elder son of Queen Elizabeth II, after a brief courtship, and this made her Princess of Wales in 1981, a role which she enthusiastically received.
For better, for worse.
For better, for worse.
For richer, for poorer.
For richer, poorer.
In sickness and in health.
In sickness and in health.
To love and to cherish.
To love and to cherish.
Till death us do part.
Till death us do part.
According to God's holy law.
According to God's holy law.
And thereto I give thee my troth.
And thereto I give thee my troth.
The couple had two sons, the Princes William and Harry, who were second and third in the line of succession to the British throne. As Princess of Wales, Diana undertook royal duties on behalf of the Queen and represented an approach to charity work. Her patronages initially centered on children and youth, but she later became known for her involvement with AIDS patients and a campaign for the removal of landmines. She also raised awareness and advocated ways to help people who had cancer and mental illness.
I couldn't stand here today and make this sort of statement without acknowledging the heartfelt support I've been given by the public in general. Your kindness and affection has carried me through some of the most difficult periods, and always your love and care has eased that journey. And for that, I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Noted for her shyness, Princess Diana's charisma and friendliness endeared her to the public and helped her reputation to survive the acrimonious collapse of her marriage. Considered to be very photogenic, she was a leader of fashion in the 1980s and 1990s. Media attention and public mourning were extensive after her death in a car crash in a Paris tunnel in 1997.
The Nigerian Union of Journalists, Oyo State Council, on Monday ordered its members to boycott a press conference allegedly called by a former Minister of Aviation, Femi Fani-Kayode. The union gave this directive on Monday in Ibadan, the state capital. Mr. Fani-Kayode was recently seen in a viral video while addressing a press conference verbally insulting a journalist in Calabar, Cross River State. The NUJ State Chairperson, Ademola Babalola, in a statement made available, added that he gave the directive in view of Mr. Fani Kayode's actions. He said, and I quote, "It was about 2 hours that we learned that FFK, in his usual junketing across the nation, allegedly landed in Ibadan last night. We heard that he has invited some of our colleagues to a press conference. As a journalist, I expect a kind of sober reflection on the part of Fani Kayode. I had expected that he would pay a visit to the NUJ president, Chris Iziguzo, and possibly the management of Daily Trust newspaper to atone for his many sins against journalists in the country." End of quote. On business news, Nigeria's foreign reserves rise by $70 billion as of August 27, 2020. This and some business news shortly. Welcome to Business News. The Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, has condemned the ongoing plans by the federal government to concession of the 4 most viable airports across the country in protest held to oppose the concession plan by the leadership of the NLC. Comrade Ayuba Waba at the Lagos airport, the Labour Union warned the federal government to desist from further contemplation, discussions and arrangements to concession the international airport, even as it called for social dialogue between the government and the Labour on this. The Labour declared that the news was received with great alarm, with effort by the federal government to concession Nigeria's major airports, namely Nnamdi Azikiwe International Airport Abuja, Murtala Mohammed International Airport Lagos, and Port Harcourt International Airport to private sector interest. The union lamented that while the airports, especially the ones earmarked for concession, were in states of eyesore and dilapidation, no private sector invested money towards its rehabilitation, hence declared it is unjust. The insurance sector of the Nigerian economy contracted by 28.15% in the second quarter of the year. This was contained in the National Bureau of Statistics Gross Domestic Product report for the second quarter of 2020. In this report, the NBS stated that the finance insurance, which accounted for 89.82% of the sector, respectively, in real terms in second quarter. Quarter-on-quarter growth in real term stood at minus 0.16%. The country's foreign reserves rose by $70 million from $35.59 billion as of August the 27th. The latest figure from the Central Bank of Nigeria have shown. The reserves had earlier dropped by $278.91 million from $35.87 billion on July the 29th to $35.59 billion on August the 19th. According to the CBN's monthly economic report, international reserves increased by $33.69 billion at the end of March to $36.46 billion naira at the end of the April 2020, reflecting the receipt of the proceeds of the International Monetary Fund's rapid financing instrument of $3.4 billion. The deposit money banks and merchant banks in the country borrowed 1.81 trillion naira from the Central Bank of Nigeria in the first quarter of the year. In April, they borrowed 274 billion naira from the Apex Bank, thereby increasing the amount borrowed to 2.08 trillion naira in the first 4 months of the year, according to the data obtained from the CBN. According to CBN reports, the banks continued to access the standing facilities window to square up their positions. The trend at the CBN standing facilities window showed more frequency at the standing lending facility window as against the decreased patronage at the standing deposit facility window. That was business news on the foreign scene. Historic Israeli flight arrives in the United Arab Emirates. Stay tuned. high-level delegation from Israel and the United States have arrived at the United Arab Emirates via the first-ever commercial flight between the Middle Eastern nations to put final touches on the controversial pact establishing open relations. Details in the world today.
The first commercial flight from Israel to the United Arab Emirates has landed, marking a major step in normalizing relations after the announcement of a peace deal. The El Al airliner made a 3-hour trip carrying a delegation of Israeli and U.S. officials. The flight was allowed to cross Saudi Arabian airspace, normally blocked to Israeli air traffic. The UAE became only the 3rd Arab country in the Middle East to recognize Israel since its founding in 1948. On Saturday, the United Arab Emirates repealed a law boycotting Israel, which had been in place since 1972, and earlier this month, the two countries opened direct telephone services for the first time. The agreement to normalize relations brokered by the U.S. was made public in a surprise announcement on 13 August. Mr. Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law and senior advisor, led secret talks which resulted in the Israel-UAE agreement. An exiled Belarusian opposition leader, Svetlana Tikhanovskaya, has been invited to address the United Nations Security Council on Friday. She will speak via video link at the invitation of current member Estonia. Ms. Tikhanovskaya was first to leave Belarus after losing to veteran leader Alexander Lukashenko in this month's disputed presidential election. Pro-democracy campaigners have vowed to force Mr. Lukashenko from office. They say they will come out on the streets every week until he leaves. Tens of thousands on Sunday occupied the center of the capital, Minsk, for the 3rd week in a row to protest about his victory, and dozens were detained there and in other cities. At least 4 people have died and hundreds have been injured in the unrest this month. In South Sudan's capital, Juba, the rebel groups that signed the deal include Justice and Equality Movement and Sudan Liberation Army from the western region of Darfur, and Sudan's People's Liberation Movement North, led by Malik Agar from the southern state of South Kordofan and Blue Nile. The ceremony was held in the presence of Sudan's Sovereign Council head, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and Prime Minister Abdullah Hamdok, as well as top Sudanese officials. The peace deal is expected to end 17-year conflict between the government and armed groups. Lebanon named it as the new premier on Monday to steer the country through a deep crisis after the Beirut explosion compounded a sharp economic downturn. The presidency made the announcement in a televised statement as Ajib arrived at the palace in Babda, near Beirut, to meet President Michel Aoun and Parliament Speaker Nabir Berri. Adib has been Lebanon's ambassador to Germany since 2013, and his name only emerged on Sunday to replace Hassan Diab, whose government resigned in the aftermath of the deadly August 4 blast at Beirut port. The 48-year-old was born in the northern city of Tripoli and is a Sunni Muslim, making him eligible to become prime minister under Lebanon's sectarian-based power-sharing system.
The opportunity before our country is limited, and the task I have accepted is based on the fact that all political forces are aware of a need to form a government in record time and to begin implementing reforms immediately.
And that's it on The World Today.
From The World Today to the world of sport, up next is Akim Akintoday with the latest sport news.
Welcome to the exciting world of sports. Dunking off from the world of basketball, Kawhi Leonard scored 33 points as the Los Angeles Clippers booked their place in the second round of the Western Conference playoffs. The Los Angeles Clippers advanced to the second round of the NBA playoffs after they eliminated the Dallas Mavericks in Orlando, Florida. Kawhi Leonard scored 33 points as the Clippers won 111-97 on Sunday, securing a 4-2 series win. Meanwhile, Jamal Murray starred with 50 points as the Denver Nuggets forced a decider after a 119-107 win over the Utah Jazz, tied the series at 3-3. The winner of the Nuggets Jazz series, which Utah had previously led 3-1, will face the Clippers in the next round. And to football now, Lionel Messi boycotted Barcelona's first preseason training session on Monday as the striker upped his stakes in his battle to leave this summer. After skipping coronavirus test on Sunday, Messi was absent again from the club's training ground, where Ronald Koeman held a session at 5:30 p.m., his first since being appointed Barca coach. It appears increasingly likely Messi will try to force a transfer by refusing to play in La Liga next season, which begins on September 12. Manchester City remain favourites to sign Messi, whose basic salary alone amounts to about 60 million euros, but Paris Saint-Germain, Inter Milan and Juventus remain in the running too. Meanwhile, Argentina's president, Alberto Fernandez, has advised Lionel Messi to return to his homeland and finish his career at his former youth team club, Newell's Old Boys. Messi, aged 33, shocked the world of football last week by informing Barcelona of his intentions to move on this summer following a turbulent season at the Nou Camp. He has been most strongly linked with a move to Manchester City, where he will link up with his previous manager, Pep Guardiola, again. Newell's fans held a spectacular parade on the streets of Rosario on Thursday in hope of showing Messi how much it will mean for him to move to the club. And to France, Brazil's forward Neymar has spoken of his desire to stay at Paris Saint-Germain for next season and join forces with teammates and manager Thomas Tuchel to try winning the Champions League title for the first time for the club. Neymar's declaration has cooled any suggestion about being interested to advance his interest of returning to Barcelona. The 28-year-old has contract with PSG until June 2022, but his stay for 2020-2021 season is now a certainty. Neymar is ambitious to win his second Champions League title following his first feat in 2014-2015 with Barcelona. He also won 2 La Liga titles, 1 Super Cup and FIFA World Club Cup with Barca before joining PSG in August 2017 for a world record €222 million transfer fee. With PSG, the Brazilian has won 3 Ligue 1 titles and recently failed to win the Champions League when the Tuchel's men lost 1-0 to Bayern Munich in the final of the 2019-2020 edition. And Manchester United are closing in on the signing of Ajax midfielder Donny van de Beek after the two clubs agreed a fee in the region of €40 million. United boss Ole Gunnar Solskjaer is a huge admirer of the Netherlands international 23 and has had him watched on a number of occasions. It is understood United have now firmed up their interest with a medical and personal time still to be concluded. The transfer within days. It will become Solskjaer's first close season signing after a much publicized move for Borussia Dortmund's England winger Jadon Sancho stalled over the size of the fee. Van de Beek was part of the outstanding Ajax side that got to the Champions League semi-finals in 2019. Super Eagles goalkeeper Daniel Akpeyi has suffered what looks like a nasty injury following his collision with an opposing player on Sunday. Akpeyi was in action for his club, Kaizer Chiefs, in their APSA Premier League tie against Bidvest Wits at the FNB Stadium when the unfortunate incident happened late in the first half. The Nigerian goalkeeper had dealt with a cross from the left side of the pitch, but then collided with the leg of an onrushing Bidvest player. He received a lengthy medical taken off on a stretcher by medics. And from the world of lawn tennis, world number 1 Novak Djokovic has resigned as president of the ATP Player Council to front a new association aiming to increase the power of the players. But he faces opposition from Rafael Nadal and Roger Federer, who remain members of the council. Britain's Andy Murray has not yet joined the male-only association as called for the WTA to be involved. The first players to sign up for the Professional Tennis Players Association met on Sunday at the Billie Jean King National Tennis Center in New York, where the U.S. Open begins on Monday. Djokovic first raised the idea of a players' union at the 2018 Australian Open. Since then, a number of his peers have been agitating for a greater share of the revenue generated by the Grand Slams in particular. Okay, just to tell you that a former goalkeeper